Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's story, an entitled father sues his own son to steal his inherited property, but then ends up losing everything. Here is what happened. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. I recently realized how truly screwed up my family is. More specifically, how messed up my father is. I had always brushed it past, saying most families have problems, but only when he scammed my brother and then tried to sue him did I realize that some people cannot be redeemed. I still cannot believe someone like my mother could have ever been married to him. She is an angel, and I am certain that she is the reason Riley, my brother, grew up to be the most hardworking person I have ever known. He is 33 years old now, and around the time he was born, our father started a diner. This business was dear to all of us, but it meant the most to Riley because it was named after him. The first few years, the diner was constantly filled with customers. They came for the hamburgers and stayed for the shakes. The first hit to business was when a cheaper fast food joint started up right across from Dad's diner. The diner survived this competition just fine, but the real problem started when bigger fast food joints like KFC and McDonald's opened up on the same street. This was around the time our mother was diagnosed with cancer, and everyone was too occupied with her recovery to be able to focus on the diner. To make matters worse, Dad had the audacity to cheat on his wife while she was undergoing chemotherapy. The minute she got a little better, he applied for a divorce in an attempt to establish claim over the numerous properties they collectively owned. All Mom got in the end was the house she wanted to spend her last moments in and the custody of both her children. Normally, getting custody over children while being this sick would have been hard, but it seemed that Dad did not really want anything to do with us anymore. Despite getting this much, he was still angry that he could not get Mom's house. That should have been the first sign to stay away from him, but Riley still believed he was capable of being a decent father deep down. Really deep down at least. We had cut off all contact with him for a good long time. We were not even invited when he got married for the second time. Riley stayed with our mom in her house for a long time. He looked after her during her weakest years. To our joy, she was victorious in her battle against cancer, but it definitely took a lot from her. Her body looked like it was half of what it used to be, but throughout everything, she was still her. This is what made it so hard to believe that a woman like that could be married to Dad. Just when I thought we had probably gotten away from him for good, Riley told me that he happened to run into Dad when he visited the diner and ended up buying the damn thing. I asked him how he had managed to get the money to do that, considering we were all financially devastated from the chemotherapy, and he told me he had made an agreement with Dad where he paid half the amount now, and as he managed to get more money from running the diner, he would pay a predetermined amount every month to Dad till he eventually paid the entire cost of the place. I could tell that Riley genuinely seemed to think that Dad had done him a favor, but my biggest concern was how slow business seemed. When I asked him about this, he told me that Dad showed him the accounts from the past few months and the profits seemed pretty good. This did not make sense to me because the place was usually empty, even on weekends, but Riley was convinced that due to the number of years the diner had been around, it had developed loyal patrons who kept the place going. Additionally, he wanted to implement a new marketing strategy that Dad said will draw in new customers. I was still skeptical, but I figured that when all is said and done, the man was still our father, and what father would willingly screw over his own child? I think Riley assumed that this would almost make them business partners and give him a chance to have a father-son relationship once more, but Dad just used the diner to boss over him and to attempt getting the house from my mom. He used the money he got by selling his old business to start a new one with his second wife. It is odd to consider her our stepmother, considering we are around the same age, and together they managed to generate a lot of money for retirement. The diner, on the other hand, got progressively worse owing to old equipment and too much competition. It hurt to watch my brother struggle to keep his head above water, but there was not much I could do to help. My father had sold his son a dying business to make money to start a new business, and it was now too late to do anything. Riley tried running new promotions, but that only resulted in higher expenditure. After a few months, he was unable to keep paying Dad. We never would have guessed that Dad would actually sue his own son, but he did. He added Mom's house to the lawsuit. He said that is what his new wife wanted, so they would have the necessary resources to be able to run their business better, but even a person who had just met him could tell that greed was all that drove him. He saw this as another opportunity to get Mom's house, which he assumed was also registered under Riley's name. When Riley was staying with Mom to look after her when she was sick, Mom told Dad that she will get the house transferred to her son's name so she wouldn't have to deal with her ex-husband anymore, but she was bluffing. Basically, Dad ended up adding a property that did not even belong to Riley to the lawsuit. We pleaded with him to not go through with it. However, it did not matter to him. He did not even care if he could never see his grandchildren again. I was so angry, but I felt helpless at the same time because I could not stop him from suing my brother. Then I realized there are other ways I could help him out. I contacted my friend who graduated top of his class in law school, and with his help we managed to turn the case around. His lawsuit was declared void for involving a property that belonged to someone who is not even part of the trial. Riley countersued him for falsely altering the accounts and cooking the books to trick him into buying a dying business. This was enough to significantly hamper his new business, but we did not stop there. I reported him to the IRS the moment I found out he was not paying taxes for his new business. Even in the accounts he had given Riley, there was never any mention of tax, so it was not a far-fetched assumption that he was evading tax with his new business as well, and as it turns out, I was right. This resulted in the IRS seizing his business and shutting it down. He was required to pay a large fine as well, and this had him declare bankruptcy right before his retirement. I wanted to feel bad for him, but how could I when he tried to do the same to his own son? This one is titled Revenge on Rude People. I work as a train driver. I drive smaller trains mostly out on the countryside, and people are generally nice and well behaved. But of course, there are also the alcoholics, drug addicts, and general weirdos that use public transport, and some people that just live to be a pain in the butt. This was a few years ago. We were traveling in the late afternoon and my conductor, let's call him C, storms into the driver's cabin, angry and annoyed, and tells me, "C, we have 2 rude good-for-nothing guys on board, and they are such a-holes." Me, what did they do? C, they have no tickets, refuse to pay, and just laugh up in my face and are saying, "What are you gonna do about it?" Me, what the hell? Should I help you throw them off at the next stop? C, we can't because they are just traveling 1 station, so they are getting off at the next stop. Damn smug guys with their "what you gonna do about it." So then we are both angry. I let the conductor rant and let off some steam. Next stop comes and the guys get off. The conductor angrily gestures at them. "That's them, they're little pricks." We continue the short remaining journey and have a break at the end station. Some hours later, the train then goes back. Since it is on the countryside and it's a late weekend evening, the train is almost empty on the way back. The conductor knows every passenger on board is getting off and she is up at front with me, chatting and all is fine again. Until we approach the station where we let those guys off. We see 2 people standing there and it is them. My conductor besides me shines up like a damn sun. She says with the biggest smile on her face, "Don't stop." And I am just laughing, slowing down the train, not stopping though, and when we pass them, my conductor opens the window, waves and says loud and happily, "That is what I'm gonna do about it." The guys are just staring at her with their jaws on the ground when we drive past them. We are laughing. All the way to our home station. We were the last train for the day. Edit, I wrote in the comments that we encountered these guys again a few weeks later. I will post it here as well because these guys did not learn the first time. They apparently got on at the same station like last time, but we did not notice them. They had plans to travel further than last time, but when the conductor went out to check the tickets, it went like this. Conductor spots them, recognizes them, says loudly among the other travelers, "Oh, are you able to pay for your tickets today?" They just fidget and say, "No, we ain't got no money." See, well, ain't that a shame? "I guess you have to get off at the next stop then." Them, "What the hell? Can't you be nice and let us be?" "What the F are we gonna do at that crappy station?" C says, "Guys, I don't give a damn. You're going off this train and you can walk to the next station. I'm calling the train behind us so they won't pick you up either." They got off and the other train called us later because they saw the guys walking on a forest path along the railway track. And I have not seen these guys since. And yeah guys, obviously, if you are riding the train without a ticket, which is already not good in the first place, but I can sometimes maybe understand it given you are in really bad circumstances, you should at least not act like a douchebag. But then again, that's pretty much the golden rule for life. Just don't be a douchebag. Anyway, the next one is titled "Never Cheat on a Soldier." So, I am in the army and I was married. I was approaching my first deployment to Iraq. It was very stressful and it had my wife wanting me to find a way to stay and not deploy. Obvious things any wife would try to talk about. Anyway, so we have no kids but both want them, so we talk about getting out of debt while I am gone. She talks to her best friend back home in another state where we are both from. Her friend agrees to let her move in and charge a modest $300 in rent so that we can get out of debt and start a family when I come back. A plan I was actually very pleased with. I deploy and she is there crying her eyes out, saying she will miss me and loves me and we will start a family when we get back. Fast forward 2 months and she starts acting distant. Not wanting to talk much on our scheduled calls or text back 1 or 2 word answers. We have been together 6 years and she is never at a loss for words usually. Anyway, one day she says I need some space and she asked someone who is 10,000 miles away for space. I say why, she just says she needs space. She wants to find herself, so I remember back when we lived at home, she had a guy who was always being borderline inappropriate. I'm not a very jealous person and I trust her, so I start seeing the sad guy in basically all her pictures she posts with a group. Every time he is in the picture, everyone else changes, but never him. So for the first time, I'm very jealous and uneasy about everything, so I clone her phone and I receive every text she receives as well as every text she sends. I will never forget the first text I saw after cloning her phone. "Hey babe, I will see you after work. Want me to save you any of my leftovers?" From her to him. It totally destroyed me. I lost 35 pounds in a week. I did not eat or sleep. I stared at the phone watching every conversation, watching them talk about trying to have a baby. It was literally everything a married person fears. I ask her if she is seeing someone and she says no, she isn't. She is taking care of herself and she loves me, blah blah blah. I don't say anything about receiving her texts for 2 months. Over this time, she finally admits cheating and that he is so much better than me at intercourse, treating her right, and he does what she wants. During this time, she pays our debt off, gets tattoos with him, matching I love you tattoos, goes to shows with him, buying clothes, etc. With the money I am making, so this is where the revenge starts. I put a freeze on the account for a month and in that time I change every password to every account to things she won't guess. AKA army jargon slang terms. I block her on Facebook and my phone so she has no way to contact me. She lost her car to repo a few months later, got kicked out of her place and had to sell her prized shoes and purses just to stay alive. I then find out she got a job at her old restaurant. So I post all the text conversations I have with her and the guy talking about having babies that have timestamps on it, as well as post conversations we had with the matching timestamps, showing all of our friends what she has done. I then have friends call and complain at her job constantly on both him and her. They work at a restaurant, so I also have friends dine and dash and they both get fired. So she tries to call my command and tell them that I am abandoning her and she cannot provide for herself. My commander knows what is going on though. He does nothing because he had something similar happen to him. Then, about a month before I come back, she calls me from another number to tell me she is pregnant with his kid. Mind you, I am still gone, so we cannot get divorced yet, and she moved away with him. 10 hours from me, on April 24th, 2018. She calls me 5 months pregnant, crying uncontrollably, asking me where she should go. Apparently, they had a giant blow-up fight and she tells him she is leaving. She says she does not know where to go and I simply say, sorry, not my problem anymore. Fast forward January of this year. She calls me from a mutual friend's phone. Her, he hit me. I don't know what to do. Me, maybe you don't cheat on your husband when he's deployed for some guy who talks a big game. Her, well, I guess you are happy about this then. Me, no, but I'm glad I know I'm not the bad guy in this story. And then the next month, her, he is cheating on me with 2 girls. I am so sorry. I regret everything I did. I effed it all up. Me, yeah, you did. All in all, this woman destroyed my life. She put me into a deep depression I am still dealing with, but I do feel a little better, having proved that I was not the problem. To think if this happened even 10 or 5 years ago, I would have come back to an empty bank account, an empty house, as well as seeing my then wife pregnant with another man's baby. She actually hit me up yesterday to ask for some money to help cover rent. Added to answer a few questions I realized I left out, that we got divorced before the kid was born, so I have no financial responsibility to her, haven't now for almost a year. I mainly use T-Mobile's Digit service to clone the phone. If you want, just Google it, I don't feel like typing it. And also no, I was not celebrating that she was physically abused, I did tell her to call the cops, but that's all I did. It's not right to abuse someone, but I also have no responsibility to watch out for her well-being. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would say OP, at least for the most part, dodged an absolute cannonball here. However, I guess you cannot really say dodged because he was married to that person, but at least he did not have a child with that woman. Either way, the next one is titled Malicious Compliance Done Right. My malicious compliance took place about 20 years ago in September. I accepted a retail job in a small local shop to pay my bills until I could get into a local hospital that offered better pay, benefits and flexible hours that would be compatible with going back to college spring semester. During the interview, the manager brought up that the company likes to promote from within and they would be happy to start me on a path to assistant manager, aka AAM. I told both the manager and AM that I did not intend to accept any of their offers for promotion because I was going to be returning to college in the spring. So they hired me and I started nearly full-time hours right away. Occasionally they would make a comment about promoting me and I would repeat the same as I did when I interviewed, which is not interested. The job offer from the hospital came shortly before Thanksgiving, so my 2-week notice had me starting my new job the first week of December. I offered to stay and work evenings and weekends until December 30th because I did want to provide them with coverage and hey, it would be extra money in my pocket for running a till for 3 hours a night and on weekends. I specifically said December 30th because before getting the hospital job, the manager was a jerk and made sure to let me know I would be working New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. He liked being a douchebag about things like that. When I gave my notice, the manager was so pissed. He said, "We promised we would help you get promoted to an AM position." I responded that since day 1 and onward I have told you I'm not interested in being promoted as my goal is to return to college. I explained I was taking the job with the hospital not only for better pay and benefits, but because it would allow me the flexibility of changing my hours when I return to college in the spring and at each following semester. Surprisingly, the manager did let me finish my 2 weeks but refused my offer of staying until December 30th. His reason for refusing my offer was because I was going to be too out of touch. So the very first Saturday of not working at the store, I get a call from the AM asking me to come in to help. The AM was a pretty cool guy and he said the manager was the one who asked him to call me. So I told the AM, please tell the manager that I would love to come in and help, but I'm afraid I'm just too out of touch. I am a believer in not burning all bridges, but this one was a bridge that needed to be set on fire. It's not a huge malicious compliance, but it's a story I still like to tell all these years later. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you have ever gotten revenge or malicious compliance at your own workplace, then please feel free to share your stories because I would be very interested. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again tomorrow.